Thank you so much again for joining, and we are happy to present the webinar on the clean energy procurement for Taiwan. This webinar is part of our regional spotlight series, and this is the second webinar. The first one was on India. I'm going to pass it off to my colleague to introduce Siba and to take us forward.
Hi, everyone. Good evening, good morning, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Annalisa Gegenheimer, and I'm the Director of Global Programs here at CEBA. CEBA stands for the Clean Energy Buyers Association, where we work with large corporate buyers with our mission to advance reliable, affordable, carbon emissions-free energy around the world. And the Global Programs team is particularly focused on enabling supply chain decarbonization by working with our members and their suppliers to really advocate and facilitate clean energy procurement globally and particularly in Asia Pacific. There's a couple different ways that the Global Programs team operates. One is through education and training. So this webinar is part of our regional spotlight series. And we also provide what's called the Clean Energy Procurement Academy, where we have both in-person and digital training that really drives suppliers and large corporate energy buyers in Asia Pacific markets to understand how to procure clean energy, and really takes folks from, should we set a goal? How do we set goals? All the way through how do we actually take action to facilitate a transaction and procure clean energy for my company. Another way that we also, sorry, Encore, I'm just gonna introduce our advocacy side as well. We also work on the markets and policy side, where we work directly with policymakers, government stakeholders, again, our corporate members and partners in various markets to help advocate for clean energy procurement policies and other types of policies and market mechanisms that can particularly facilitate clean energy procurement. So we kind of come at it from both the policy and market side, as well as then the education side. Next slide. So we don't need to go through the entire agenda, but there are two exciting speakers, one from Apala Group and the other from Google. We will give them a chance to present their topics, and we also have a couple of Q&A questions for them. If you have questions at any point, please post them in the chat and or feel free to raise your hand. The purpose of today is to really understand clean energy procurement and the clean energy policy and market landscape in Taiwan. And so our speakers will kind of cover some of those topics. Encore, did you want to introduce this one?
Yeah, so, as my colleague Annalisa said, if you have any questions, you can post them in the chat anytime, and our speakers will try to answer them as best as they can. The session is being recorded, and we will be sending out all of the recording and the summary after a week of the webinar. Feel free to engage with us through the chat, and if you have any issues, you can reach out to me or Annalisa, and we'll be there to help you throughout the webinar. There's also an antitrust reminder, which is for our members. You can read this. And yeah, I think we're going to be starting soon with the first speaker. To introduce our speakers, I think we have the Director of APAC Clean Energy and Impact from Apala Group, Wei-In, and we're very fortunate to also have I-Chun from Google, who is the Senior Energy Lead. We'll be starting the webinar with Apala Group, who will be giving an overview of the Taiwan clean energy market, as well as the barriers to procurement. I'm going to pass it off to you now, Wei-In.
Hello everyone, I'm Wei from Apala Group. So we are a procurement advisory to help corporate to decarbonize for their scope 2 and scope 3, and we cover APAC and Latin markets. So today I'm going to talk about what's going on in Taiwan market and with a little bit of policy updates and also the procurement options. Next slide. So here you can see the Taiwan power market overview. Overall, Taiwan power market is still very highly regulated. So as you can see that Taipower is the main generator and transmission and distribution and also the retailer. So Taiwan has a major amendment of the Electricity Act in 2017. So before 2017, everyone can only sell the energy regardless conventional or renewable to Taipower. And after the amendment, this allows the creation of renewable energy retailer and the developers. So after the amendment, corporate buyers can sign corporate PPA directly with a developer or retailer. And so after the amendment of the Electricity Act in 2017, the first CPPA signed in Taiwan was actually with Google as a solar PPA of 10 megawatts. Originally from the amendment of 2017, Taipower is supposed to be separate into three entities of generation and distribution and transmission and retailer, but this was actually changed because the main purpose is to stabilize the electricity tariff, also to help the grid infrastructure to absorb the impact of renewable energy. So as of the amendment again by 2025 earlier this year, Taipower will remain as one entity, continue to serve as a national utility company. And as you can see that now there are four options for renewable energy buyers in Taiwan. You can get on-site generations, off-site wheeling directly with the generator or with retailer. Also, there are programs founded by Taipower with small-scale green option scheme and RE30. Taiwan has a very strict scheme on the REC. So any renewable energy sell back to Taipower, you won't get a TREC, and this is to avoid double counting. Next slide. Okay, so as you can see, Taiwan has no wholesale market. So this also means virtual PPA is not an option in Taiwan. And currently, because there's no wholesale market, when large consumers sign corporate PPA, specifically with offshore wind developers, they're very often facing excess energy. And they still have to pay for the excess energy, but they cannot get the TREC. So this has been quite issues for some large consumers who signed offshore CPPA. And we are seeing some corporate buyer are trying to advocacy to have a market so they can trade the excess energy. And on the corporate PPA side, there's one thing to note that in Taiwan, if you sign the physical off-site PPA, there's a real-time matching mechanism. So the generation and consumption will be matched at every 15 minutes interval. Currently, there is a second time matching possible, meaning that so all the consumers, they are under time of use, but they probably don't operate 24 hours and 7 days a week. So with the second time matching, they will be redistributed into the different time slot that is with the same time tariff. And this will help the buyers to have slightly higher RE ratio. As for feed-in tariff, as for now, all the renewable energy technologies are able to receive FIT except offshore wind starting from round 3.2, because this is the allocation auction and the price of round 3.2 is 0. So they will have to rely on signing CPPA with corporate buyers. And the same issue as mentioned before, if they sell back to Taipower, they will receive nothing. So in Taiwan, there's TREC is the official renewable energy certificate. So the TREC Center was found in 2017. The first TREC was issued also in the same years and bought by the financial industry. And later on, the first TREC through Wei-In is also with the Google deal in 2019. Next. So as you can see from this slide, Taiwan is currently still relying heavily on imported fossil fuel, and all nuclear power plants are already retired earlier this year. They were a referendum whether to repower the number three nuclear power plant, but this was not passed. The current plan of the government is to gradually increase LNG and push renewable energy generation to 20% by next year. However, we are actually seeing this progress is behind, as you can see the graph from the right-hand side. Next. Okay, the title of this slide looks like it's missing. So basically, as you can see, we're seeing the solar projects are growing, although it's slowed down for the past 2 years. This is actually rather political. That's due to the misalignment of central and local government. The majority of the solar projects are still under FIT scheme. This has to do with, in the past few years, the FIT rate is still quite high, and it guaranteed for 20 years. So a lot of developers with the bank consider the bankability. Many of them are still under FIT. But as we are seeing the FIT rate is going down this year, so we are actually seeing some developers, they are breaking up their contracts with Taipower and transfer their project to CPPA instead. Overall, as you can see that the government actually set up the target for 20 gigawatts and hope to achieve by the end of this year, but as for now, we are at only 75%. The government has now actually pushed the target to be reached by next year, but as our observation, we think it's still very challenging. Next. So currently, we are also seeing some struggles of offshore wind on 3.1 and 3.2. And this, of course, is due to quite a lot of factors. For example, rising costs, supply chain, and higher interest rate. So, and then specifically for 3.2 is lack of buyer with international credit rating. So unlike solar projects in Taiwan, most offshore winds, they rely on international syndicate loan, which means there are loans with USD, higher interest rate, and more complicated. And this financing requirement has been pushed back to the buyers, and unfortunately, there are not many large buyers with international credit ratings in Taiwan. So far for 3.1, we're only seeing one project by CIP has reached financial closing and signed with approximately 6 corporate buyer. Then for the 3.2, we're seeing there are only 3 projects moving forward and 2 are disqualified. And Around 1 or 2 years ago, originally, we see a lot of buyers, they are giving a lot of hope they could actually achieve high IE ratio when they can sign offshore wind. But then they realize the requirement and take-off pay terms from offshore wind CPPA are very challenging for them. And this actually result a price hike of solar PPA in Taiwan for the past 2 years. Next. So as you can see that these are the options available for renewable energy procurement in Taiwan. So first one, offsite PPA, this is actually the most effective way for you to reach high renewable energy ratio. And there are different technologies available on the market, although solar and offshore wind now are the most common one. We are also seeing some consumers signing small hydro as well. But because of this real-time 15 minutes matching mechanism, if you want to reach higher ratio, you actually have to sign CPPA with different technology. And through the combination, you'll be able to get the RE ratio that you want. So in one of the clients that we've worked before, we're seeing them signing solar, onshore wind, and small hydro, plus buying TREC, and they were able to reach around 80% last year. Then the other option would be on-site PPA. So basically is to utilize the space like rooftop or car park or even reservoir and sign a PPA with private developer, or you can do the self-investment as well. So these two on-site generation options are actually the two only options you'll be able to save money compared to the Taipower tariff. Rest of other options on the market, they are all higher than the Taipower tariff. But I always have to tell the consumer that Taipower tariff is heavily subsidized. And actually, because of the heavily subsidized, Taipower is actually currently at a huge loss. So for the past 2 years, they have also increased the tariff, I think, every half year with different sectors. Then the other options are initiatives from Taipower, that is small-scale green energy options. So you could actually go into Taipower's website around every November to bid. So in order not to be accused that they are snatching business from the retailer and developer, the bid price for small-scale green option is actually higher than the CPPA price you're seeing on the market. And then lastly, they have this RE30 program, which is a supplement. So in order to actually subscribe to RE30, the consumer needs to sign at least one CPPA with developer or retailer first, and then join this program, and then Taipower will distribute and matching the renewable energy from its self-built site to reach 30%. There are also some clients who probably have challenge to forecast their energy consumption, and they would choose to buy unbundled RECs. However, unbundled RECs, it's actually the most expensive options when you combine the tariff from Taipower plus the cost of unbundled REC. Okay, actually, I have one more thing to add. So just 2 days ago, this week, TREC Center has actually offered another new option. So they are a batch of projects. They are built under the lease with Thai Sugar. So 30% of this batch of projects will be open for SME corporate buyer in Taiwan, that they can bid to procure renewable energies from these projects. The tenor will be 5 years, and the limit is also 30%. Yeah, that's all.
And thank you so much for the speaking session. And we've now transitioning into our first Q&A, where it is, can you describe the new PPA rules in 2024 and the pros and cons for large energy consumers in Taiwan? And if anyone has any views, you can please feel free to use the chat option.
So in 2024, they are Green Energy Sandbox program that would allow consumers to actually redistribute the renewable energies from different projects to match their own targets. So actually one of the participants is TSMC. So the good thing about this program is, for example, you are a supplier of brand clients, and you might have several different sites, and some sites might be asked to have higher RE ratio. So with this sandbox program, you are able to allocate the renewable energy you source from different projects by the end of the month, and with also the second time matching mechanisms. So you could probably have one site with only RE10 and the other side with RE50. The disadvantage of this program is you really have to know your own energy consumption very well, and you have to write a code for your allocation plan yourself. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. And is there anyone who has any questions for Wei-In about this, or any other questions she can answer? You can post them in the chat or unmute yourself as well. I think we have a question in the chat on the definition of SME and applying for RE30 quota.
I think you're referring to the program from the Thai Sugar, right? So there is a PowerPoint on the website that actually has a very clear definition of SME for this program. So in comparison with the Thai Power Small Green Auction program, I think the SME definition for this one is very straightforward.
And we have one more on, do you know by how much offshore wind prices have gone up?
I know approximately the price, but I don't think there is a benchmark on the CPPA price for offshore wind. But in general, offshore wind CPPA price is at least 10 to 20% higher than the current solar PPA. This also depends on whether you're buying directly with a developer or with retailer, and also the amount.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I think we will be moving to the second speaker now. And if there are any questions, please feel free to put them into the chat. And I would now invite I-Chun to share a presentation for Google. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Great, thank you so much. Anchor, are you able to see my screen?
Yeah, I am. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. So, well, thank you again for having me today. My name is I-Chun, and I'm part of Google's Clean Energy and Power team based in Taiwan. And so, before I begin, let me just sort of briefly describe Google's sustainability ambitions for 2030. So, we have two ambitions, one of which is called the 24/7 carbon-free energy target, and that is mainly for sort of speaking to our Scope 2 emissions. And in addition to that, we also have our net zero ambitions, which covers both Scope 2 and our Scopes 3 ambitions. So, as you know, I think everyone on this call is well aware that we are now in the age of artificial intelligence. And due to this rapid growth in AI, the demand for Google services have also grown rapidly, and it has really increased our energy use over the past years. So in the past, every year we do energy forecasts to see how fast or how much our energy will grow. And then basically over the past 2 years, we had to throw our plans sort of like discard our previous plans and then basically like sort of see that huge ramp up. You see that huge ramp up. So just in 2024, our data center electricity consumption grew by 27% year over year. But even though our energy demand has grown, we have actually seen our carbon emissions come down by about 12%. And I think that is maybe a little bit counterintuitive, but then that is really because a lot of the renewable energy that Google has procured over the past few years, some as far back as 2019, has come online in 2025 or 2024, and so that has really helped to decarbonize the grid. So with that, let me speak a little bit about Google's renewable energy procurement principles. So let me start with the first one, which is material impact. And when we say material impact, the other name that we sometimes use to call it is additionality. So like when we sign a renewable energy PPA, we want to make sure that Google's PPA is the reason why this project is coming online. So it's because of Google's long-term PPA that the project becomes bankable. And so like we are bringing new and additional projects to the grid. And so just about 30 seconds ago, I talked about how some of the projects that we signed in 2019 are only coming online in 2024. This is the reason, because we're really trying to bring new capacity onto the grid. The second principle that we adhere to is bundled RECs and RECs. And so, as Wei-In mentioned, this is not a problem in Taiwan because Taiwan, we only have bundled RECs and RECs. But then I think a lot of people, a lot of listeners on this webinar know that unbundled RECs are available in some markets, and Google, we do not procure unbundled RECs because we do not believe they are impactful. Uh, the 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 third point I will mention is about sourcing from the local grid, and that is really about proximity. And so, like to the greatest degree possible, we want to make sure that the renewable energy that we buy is within the location where we consume our energy. So, for example, since we have data centers in Taiwan, so our consumption is in Taiwan. We want to make sure that the renewable energy that we buy is also from Taiwan, so that we have that. We believe that through that proximity or sourcing from the local grid, that's how we make the biggest impact. And so let me also just highlight the progress that Google has made over since 2010, actually. So Google, as a company, we've been procuring clean energy since 2010, as seen on this chart. And as of 2024, Google, we have signed more than 170 agreements to procure over 22 gigawatts of clean energy generation. So this number is always growing. And I think like when I started giving this presentation a few years back, it was like, oh, we were procuring 14 gigawatts, and that was already a big number. But then as of 2024, and now we're at 22 gigawatts. And I think what's really striking about Google's procurement activities is that since 2017, Google we've basically started matching 100% of our global electricity use with renewable energy purchases. And so since 2017, and sort of maintaining that progress over the past 7 to 8 years, like we have achieved 100% match of renewable energy. I think 2017 is the first year where when we hit that 100% match. I think that's also an interesting year because it was in 2017, as Wei-In mentioned in her presentation, that Google, together with some industry stakeholders and the Taiwanese government, we really started to amend Taiwan's Renewable Energy Electricity Act. And then we kind of worked on it for a while. And after that REDA, the Renewable Energy Development Act, was amended, corporate buyers became able to sign renewable energy procurement agreements with project developers. And so Google, in 2019, we became the first company to sign a solar PPA. So everything that I've mentioned here is really about renewable energy procurement. But then, in addition to buying clean energies through PPAs, we've also been sort of accelerating the transition to a cleaner energy grid through making direct financial investments. And so between 2010 to 2024, we've also invested more than $3.7 billion into projects and partnerships in order to further decarbonize the grid. Okay, so after we've matched the 100% renewable energy, one of the things that we started thinking about, like, what's next, like what else can we do to help decarbonize the grid. And one of the concepts that we've developed is called 24/7 carbon free energy, because we realized that a lot of the renewable energy or the clean energy that we have procured is wind and solar, and wind and solar is highly intermittent. And so, like, the concept of time really matters. So if you look at this chart and you see this dark rectangular bar at the bottom, that is essentially like the consumption profile of a data center for the entire year. Data centers are, our load is fairly constant. And then so you see these green spikes of where there is carbon-free energy supply, and then there's also troughs where we don't see as much carbon-free energy. So we realized that we're in those times where the bar is still gray, like we're still drawing basically fossil fuel energy from the grid. And so that's why we wanted to we developed a moonshot ambition to achieve that 24 carbon-free energy. So we are sourcing carbon-free energy at all times of the day. Okay, so I talked quite a bit about Google's overall ambitions, but since this is a webinar on Taiwan, let me also zoom in to Taiwan. And so this is just a snapshot of some of the procurement that Google has achieved in this market. So we talked about the first corporate PPA that we signed a couple of years ago. In addition to that, like last year, we also entered into a partnership with New Green Power, which is a portfolio company of BlackRock. And in this partnership, our ambition, we are going to enable up to 1 gigawatt worth of solar capacity in Taiwan. And in this 1 gigawatt, we are going to procure up to 300 megawatts worth of solar capacity through PPAs. I think one feature that is interesting in this partnership that we enter into with BlackRock and GP is that in addition to a portion of this procurement will definitely go to Google, and we will use it to decarbonize our Scope 2 emissions. But at the same time, we may offer some of this capacity to some of our semiconductor partners in Taiwan to help them decarbonize their Scope 2 emissions, and in turn decarbonize Google's Scope 3 emissions. As we know, with some of the largest semiconductor companies in the world are based in Taiwan, and so we are really trying to play a role to help to decarbonize not just ourselves but also our industry peers. Now, moving on to 2025 this year, we've also signed entered into two landmark agreements. The first of which is the geothermal agreement that we entered into with Baseload, Baseload Capital. And so, what's exciting about about this partnership is that for the longest time, like geothermal has been a little bit of a newer technology, less mature technology, and through Google's sort of partnership into with Baseload Capitals through our direct investment, also through the signing of PPAs, we feel like we really wanted to catalyze the market. We wanted to sort of demonstrate that there is a demand signal for geothermal energy in Taiwan, and then we're and through like our sort of activities, we're really helping to generate that, provide that catalyst to the market. And I think we've been somewhat successful, because there was a international geothermal conference that took place in Taipei in April of this year, and I think I've been participating in that conference for the past 2 to 3 years, and this year I felt like I really felt an energy in the room, and there was really a lot of excitement to develop Taiwan's geothermal industry going forward. Okay, and so in addition to geothermal energy, we have also signed a PPA with CIP's Fengmiao offshore wind project. So as Wei-In mentioned in her presentation, this is part of the round 3.1 auction of offshore wind, and this is the project that we've signed together with some of our industry peers, including UMC, Semiconductor, and SAS, etc. So I think again, I think what's interesting about this is because this Fengmiao project is at least for now, the only project that has reached financial close in the round 3.1 of auction, and we also hope that like through Google's involvement in this to procure a PPA from this project, that we also try to like inject some more energy into Taiwan's offshore wind market, and to help support the industry to move forward. So I think so here, like you see that we have signed solar projects, deals for solar projects, for geothermal energy, and then also for offshore wind. I think the reason why we sort of chose this portfolio is really about something Wei-In also mentioned in her presentation, which is our desire for 24/7 carbon-free energy. So like as you know, for solar generates strongest during the day and also during the summertime. But then there's really that gap during the evening time and during the winter time. And so that gap is really where offshore wind steps in. And so offshore wind, it blows strongest during the evening time and also during the winter time. And so like those two generation profiles really complement each other. And then on top of that, we stack on geothermal energy. So geothermal energy is, I think we can consider it to be a baseload carbon-free energy. And so it's like we have that carbon-free energy that's available around the clock. And so when you start stacking up these generation profiles, that's when you start hitting those higher renewable energy targets that you're not able to hit if you're only relying only on solar, for example. And I think just one final point on offshore wind. I'm not sure if this is true for other markets, but then in Taiwan, when you look at the generation profile of offshore wind between like the winter time versus the summertime, the generation output can differ as much as I think 4 to 6 times. So the variation is quite large in terms of the amount of outputs throughout the year. And with that, let me pause my presentation here and open it up for questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. And we have a question for you, and then we can also take some from the attendees. And the question would be, what do you think are the barriers and opportunities for corporate clean energy procurement in Taiwan?
Yeah, Anchor, thank you for that question. I think in terms of opportunities and challenges, let me start with opportunities. I think I think what I've seen, sort of like one area where I've seen progress over the past few years, is the amount of different procurement avenues that have become available. Because at the beginning, and this is really speaking to some of the material that Wei-In has presented in her presentation as well, which is that at the beginning, there was really just PPAs as an option. And when we look at PPAs, I mean, PPAs are a great tool, no doubt. But then at the same time, there are many companies who have different, when they make decisions, they might prefer, shorter tenures or other characteristics. And so, I think like fast forwarding to like 2024, 2025, we've seen like innovative models of PPAs being explored. I think, for example, the Semiconductor Energy Consortium, they are launching a group buy initiative, such as the joint PPA scheme and the anchor PPA scheme. And I think that is one way you can sort of bring buyers together in order for procurement. And beyond PPAs, there's also the utility green tariff, and then also the RE30 retail menu. And so I think like there are now different options and avenues on the market that and sort of corporates can now sort of pick and choose what meets their needs best and pursue those avenues. I think in terms of challenges, I think for Taiwan, I still feel like one of the key challenge is the access to affordable clean energy. And I say affordable because high cost is always a barrier for every company. And so I think SIBA actually recently published a paper on some of the key considerations for PPAs, and one of the key topics in there includes ensuring fair, transparent, and predictable charges during the duration of the PPA. In Taiwan's case, I think this corresponds to ensuring that the regulated PPA charges, such as the wheeling fees and the capacity reserve cost, are both transparent and predictable. Because when we think about a PPA, we usually just think about the energy cost. But then, like on top of the energy cost, there's also some adders, such as the wheeling charges and the reserve margin capacity fee. So like that all in charge can be higher than if you just consider the energy charge. And sometimes those two charges, whether it's the wheeling fee or the reserve margin capacity fee, they may not be as transparent, and they could grow over time. When we sign PPAs, we think, oh, we're like signing a 20-year fixed price PPA that is allows us to hedge against like increasing energy tariffs, for example. But then when you have those pieces of uncertainty, when you have uncertainty in different like cost components, that adds to that's one challenge that we're definitely facing. And another challenge that we face in addition to these like high cost is really about like I think bringing more mature technologies into the market, sort of bringing more technologies into the market and making them more mature. So we have wind and solar, and then like I alluded to, like we hope that geothermal and other sort of emerging technologies can also become options for corporate buyers to choose from in the future going forward.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. It was really insightful, and I'm also, wanting to ask Wei-In the same question and get her opinion on the barriers and opportunities for corporate clean energy procurement in Taiwan.
I just want to add a few points on I-Chun's reply. Yeah, so actually the wheeling fee currently in Taiwan I think it's one of the lowest in APAC. Currently it's being heavily discounted, but because Taipower really is at heavy loss, so just in recent few months, Taipower is thinking about canceling the discount earlier and to kind of create another revenue source to them. And as for the reserve capacity charge, so the reserve capacity charge draft was out last year. And this is also the portion that actually has caused quite a lot of concern for developers, retailers, and corporate buyers, because how much exactly are you going to pay for that? We really don't know now. So basically, everybody is kind of guessing the answer of this capacity reserve charge they have to fulfill in next 5 years. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that.
Um,
And yeah, we have one question for you in the chat as well. Can this first of its kind geothermal deal be used as a case study for other markets in the Pacific Ring of Fire like Japan and Indonesia? And, have your thoughts on you being bullish or bearish on geothermal.
I think Taiwan definitely has a lot of potential for geothermal. I would see the current issue now is the area with most potential for geothermal projects are largely in the east, and some of them are probably in the protection area or where a lot of our regional live. And there are also some legacy issues on the law and the regulation. So these are the issues that needs to be tackled together with a local community before you can really spearhead to develop more geothermal projects. As another thing that
Yeah.
I-Chun just mentioned, so actually Apala is the partner for semi JPPA, joint group PPA. So if any of the audience here are interested, please feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you so much for answering that. And I also have one for you in terms of, what kind of energy transition strategies that Taiwan could utilize from other APAC countries, and if there's any kind of learnings which Taiwan could implement.
I think for the past few years, Taiwanese government has definitely really made an effort to increase renewable energies, particularly in offshore wind. But they probably made a mistake to let the FIT phase out too quickly. And on the other hand, still have quite good solar FIT on the market. So actually, the solar FIT in Taiwan is on the high side compared to the rest of the APAC market. And I would say the solar FIT now in Taiwan is a double X. A double X because with the solar FIT, the solar PPA terms are relatively easy and the banks are really willing to give the loan. But because the FIT is there, so when whatever retailer or developer they are selling their solar CPPA, it has to be higher than the FIT. And this actually it's one of the reasons why solar PPA is not going down. And then recently is further drive by the offshore CPPA on the credit rating requirement, despite we're seeing government have guarantee mechanism to support the corporate buyer, but unfortunately, even with that credit supporting mechanism, there are only approximately like 100 companies are eligible for that mechanism. The other one we're seeing is to have a quasi-government retailer to help on offshore wind. But still, we're now again only seeing one project moving forward with financial closing. The other one have signed some contracts, probably in progress with some corporate buyer, but we're not seeing they have huge progress yet. So I would say the government probably have to come up with some mechanism to push forward these offshore wind projects. After all, the generation of offshore wind projects is at least 3 or 4 times compared to solar projects. And Taiwan doesn't have a lot of land for solar. That's obvious.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much for that. And yeah, if anyone has questions for Wayne, you can drop them in the chat. Otherwise, we can kind of move forward and uh, you know move to the end of the webinar here. And I would really like to thank our speakers today. And before that, just a note on Verge. So SIBA will be at Verge from the 28th to the 30th of October this month in San Jose, California. So, if you're interested, you can connect with us and register. And our team will be there in person. So it's a great opportunity to meet a lot of SIBA members, a lot of professionals working in the space. and it's a great area to connect with people. And I'd also say that, to connect with us on social media, on LinkedIn, on X, you can scan the QR codes and be connected and stay updated on all of the latest work which we are doing. And really, again, wanted to thank Wei-In and I-Chun for their time. And it's been really great. We have, we would be really happy to stay connected with all of you. And, thank you so much again.